In the beginning, we were born. Then we grew. Everything we knew was new.
I know we can show our children a better future, one that we would all understand, one that would join us all together in every part in every land. Our children deserve a better life, to respect and love one another. Oh, let's do it for the children of tomorrow. Take away all the hurt and sorrow. Let's do it for the children of tomorrow. Give them the guidance to follow. I know we can show our children a better future, one that was right and wrong, a new beginning, a new adventure. Show them the ways to be strong. Our children deserve a better life, to respect and love one another. Let's do it for the children of tomorrow. Take away all the hurt and the sorrow. Let's do it for the children of tomorrow, and give them the guidance to follow, to follow, to follow. Let's do it for the children of tomorrow. Do it for the children, and give them the guidance to light their way. Give them the guidance to light their way. Let's do it for the children of tomorrow, and take away all the hurt and the sorrow. Take it away. Let's do it for the children of tomorrow.
ambient noise, yeah.
So now you're grabbing some band lab clips.
Yeah.
Now for me, that would also be something where I would use like volume automation and like bring that from the bottom, like bring it in and then bring it back out.
And these are the kinds of sounds you can scratch. With this AI, like scratching it actually can be cool.
Oh, that was perfect for the interlude too.
Ends it right in the right
I didn't
spot.
even notice. 40. I didn't even realize the texture faded out at the interlude until it happened. I'm like, wait a minute.
Sometimes you just, it was just meant to be that way.
It only takes one foot in front of the other to get you where you go. And if it seems too far away on your own to reach, now is the time to come and see that we can try. Lend a hand to those beneath us. Just might be too weak. So what we'll do is walk this road together. We might see, and we can think of the way things are, the way they should be. And when we take this road together to help those in need, all you need are your own to feed the children will need. Walk on, walk on, walk on, for those who need. Walk on, walk on, walk on, when the children leave. So what we'll do is walk this road together side by side, and we can think of what helped to make us, and that we really tried. Then one more step might get us there, the last one's left behind. 'Cause moving
Hello and welcome to another episode of Talking IT. Glenn's got a gig tonight, so I'm going to be rolling on my own, and since I'm in charge, it's going to be all about piano. That was actually one of the first piano songs I ever wrote way back in the 90s. Did an album called When the Children Lead. My sister was doing a walk for cancer for the Hole in the Wall gang, and we put together a whole album to help support their walk. And I'm going to be highlighting a couple of songs from that throughout the night that spotlight different styles of piano and piano rock, piano metal. We're actually going to look at some videos that I found over on the internet that deal with writing songs for piano. And this site actually is going to get mentioned twice because they're that good. This one's coming from Piano Note over on YouTube at Piano Note Official. And they've actually got a couple of different sites. You might recognize some of them from the Songio YouTube channel as well. Great vocal tips over there. Great piano tips over here. These guys, fantastic resource on YouTube. And the first video we're actually going to look at from them has to do with how to write a song in 5 minutes on the piano. It doesn't take long.
Hello and welcome.
Hello.
It's Jordan and Lisa, and we are learning how to write a song in 5 minutes.
So we're gonna be moving super fast here.
Yeah,
Just
but
joking.
we're gonna be racing through it.
We'll be racing through.
But Lisa, you're gonna give me your pointers on how you write a song.
Yes. So I believe that everybody can be a composer.
True.
And I also believe that you don't need a very strong knowledge of the piano in order to compose music on the piano.
Yeah, I'd
you
say.
just
Yeah,
just
I'd
need to
agree.
know what the keys do, they make sound, and a very basic chord progression.
Yeah.
So the most popular chord progression of all time, the 1, the 4, the 5, the minor 6. That's it.
Okay.
So in the key of C, that's a C, an F, a G, and an A minor. So what I'm going to have Jordan do is I'm going to have him take his left hand and play that chord progression on like a loop.
I'm gonna play 4 chords of each in this progression.
Okay.
So I got my C, and then I'm moving up to my F, and then I'm moving up to my G, and then I'm moving up to my A minor.
Now while that's happening, I'm going to say, Jordan, take your right hand and pick a few notes, 4, 5, 6 notes that sound good together. Any combination. Okay, that was cool.
Okay, so those are my 3 notes.
Okay, let's hear them again. That's your theme.
That's my phrase.
So that's step 1, pick a theme.
Okay.
So that was actually really cool. It took him, he played around, he found what he liked, and so let's repeat that. So you play your theme, and then you repeat it. Oh, nice. One more repeat. Cool, now let's play that same theme, but let's play it an octave higher. It's already starting to take the shape of a song. I love it. So the next step is to take that theme and play the notes in reverse order. We're gonna flip them.
Okay.
So that might take some thinking.
Yeah.
So let's think about how we can flip the order of those notes.
Okay, so we started on C. So C is still gonna be the first note.
Okay.
But I'm gonna go C, C, A, D, C. So it's gonna sound like this.
I love it.
It almost sounds happier this way.
It does. So all we've done is inverted the theme, and it still fits, but it's a little bit different. And then you can use the concept of repetition, just repeating it.
Here it is. This is the new theme.
All right, now let's take that same theme, but start it on a different starting point. So instead of starting on C, let's pick another place on the keyboard to try playing the same set of intervals, but we're just starting somewhere else.
Okay, so I'm gonna start on G.
Okay.
So it's gonna sound like this. it's sort of the same shape.
Yep. But it's a bit different. And then we can return to the original. And the last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna change the rhythm of that theme. So we're gonna play with changing up the rhythm pattern a bit. So let's see what you come up with.
Okay.
How you can compose a song in 5 minutes or less. The combinations are endless, really. We created a foundation with a chord progression.
Yeah.
The 1, the 4, the 5, and the minor 6, which you can play in any order. You can even put them on pieces of paper and pick them randomly. Then we picked a few notes to play. And again, take your time. Play around till you find a combination that sounds great to you. And then just play with repeating it, playing it an octave higher, maybe an octave lower, flipping the order around, starting the same pattern on a different note, and adjusting the timing, the rhythm.
Cool.
And there you have it, your very own song.
That only took about 5 minutes to do, and we have our little song on the way.
Woohoo!
Cool.
All right, thanks for joining us. We'll see you around.
All right, bye guys.
Bye.
And that's at Pianote Official on YouTube. Check them out. Free piano lessons. They also give free vocal lessons on their sister site. Awesome resource. Now, some of the things they were talking about there, the chord progression approach when you're writing with piano, the 1, 4, 5, 6 chords, those are great starting points. I mean, they were doing it over in C, nice, easy key if you're just learning piano. And getting familiar with those chords is a good way to actually get comfortable with the piano. So what I'm going to show you now, a lot of people probably don't know most of my piano music on BandLab because they tend to go to my cover channel and they check out my covers, but I do actually have a band on my channel, on my account, that if you go to my bands, and this one, Pieces of Tonis, PianoWorX, this has pretty much most of the piano songs that I've written over the years. You'll find a lot of classical, a little bit of rock, and some of my newer stuff that I've been doing over the last couple of years that I've done over on BandLab. I'm going to take a look actually at my pinned one here that I put out a couple months ago, the Her Story contest that BandLab had. Loved the idea of the contest and the potential. And I was hoping, looking, see what kind of singers might be able to jump on something like this, even threw a couple words in there to get them started. And it's got a nice melody. I'm gonna bring it up over here. So that was her story as it unfolds. That was kind of the concept behind it. So when you do have some piano ideas, and if you don't happen to have a good sounding piano, you know, the general MIDI pianos that might come with your computer might not give you the full rich piano sound that you want. There are a lot of piano plugins out there, and some of them just sound incredible. The fact that they're free is blows my mind sometimes, because a good piano you used to have to pay a lot for. Now we've got resources, VST plugins that give you like Steinway grands for nothing. You just need to have a good computer that can really handle the bigger samples. And this comes from a channel that we've spotlighted in the past for different themes. Venus Theory, at Venus Theory over on YouTube. Lots and lots of resources. I mean, he talks about the industry, he talks about music making, he reviews all sorts of great equipment. And what we're going to be looking at tonight, he's going to show us 5 incredible free piano plugins that you can get started making your piano music with these, and you don't have to spend a lot of money. So here's Venus Theory's 5 incredible free piano plugins.
Episode of Morning Coffee with Cameron is brought to you in part by Hook Theory. Hook Theory has a bunch of amazing free resources to learn about different keys and modes, analyze popular songs, do some ear training, and a whole lot more. They've also got a couple very affordable books, which are some of my favorite books on the subject of music theory ever. If you want to check it out for yourself, you can use the link down in the description to help support the channel in the process so I can make more videos like this one. Howdy doody, buckaroonies, and welcome back to another episode of The Salt King Rises. The other night, I was answering some fan mail stuff, and I found myself once again answering a question I seem to get a lot. Someone was asking for some advice as to which plugin they should buy. They couldn't choose, but they knew that by buying one of these plugins, they were finally going to be able to start making music, and that really makes me mad. The music industry is a business, and all too often these companies fall to the same predatory marketing tactic of selling the dream, whether it's some discount polo-wearing associate's degree stain trying to sell you a half-baked drum sampler, or someone who couldn't sell their $20,000 anti-jerking-off lessons and decided to reheat and repackage a pretty mediocre saturation plugin, or any number of professional companies who will jump at the chance to tell you that what separates you from the pros is just 3 easy payments away. There's a saying in the world of photography that the best camera is simply the one that you have on you. And I think this is very much true of music as well, because the plugins don't make the music, you do. With that in mind, today I wanted to share with you a few of my favorite free piano libraries that you can try and make something with this week. Maybe we'll even work on a little bit of a ditty ourselves here today, because as the wise philosopher Hilary Duff once said, why not? Okay, enough babbling, let's hear some pianos. All of the pianos in this video are 1001% free, including the plugins that they run in, so of course, as always, all this stuff is going to be linked down in the description below if you want to grab any of it for yourself. First up, we have Claustrophobic Piano from PianoBook. This runs inside of the free Decent sampler, and what I really like about this one, if I just give this a quick play, it is a very full, dark and warm sound to it that I really like, but it's still pretty intimate sounding. Probably hence the name Claustrophobic Piano. But one of the things I really like about it as well is that not only does it work for solo pieces and whatnot, but it can add almost a pad-like layer to a mix. If I play just some kind of chunky, basic pop chords here, you'll probably hear what I mean. It just has this nice, full, warm mid and low end that can really round out a mix that might feel a bit sterile and lifeless otherwise. Next up, we have Spindle from Orchestral Tools. This is a felt piano. I know it's another felt piano, but this one is a little bit different because it has a nice presence and pop to it that does cut through a mix, which is really hard to find with felt pianos. Often they're just buried under everything and it's really hard to make them stand out, but this one has a really great upfront and very punchy type of sound. I like it a lot. And it could even work in like a pop production, which is a really rare thing with a felt piano, to be that kind of upfront and in your face. So that's kind of cool. It doesn't have very deep low end to it like some other libraries, but that's a pretty easy thing to fix with some EQ. Next up, we have Glass Piano from Spitfire Labs. This is a relatively new addition to Labs, but I really like the sound of this one. And what's kind of cool about it is it does come in a few different flavors, including some more kind of abstract pad and processed sort of things, as well as just a standard grand and a grand soft. It's a very stable piano sound and it comes across as a very well-tuned and well-maintained instrument, but one of the neat things about it, if we play some of the more upper register stuff here, is there's just this hint of room tone and little shuffling noises and other details that make this really lifelike, and I really enjoy that a lot about this one. This is another sort of rare soft piano that still cuts through a mix really well, so let's take it out for a test drive. Really nice full piano sound. I like that one a lot. Next, we have the Autumn Piano, also from PianoBook and also for the free Decent Sampler. This one is a lot of fun because it has two unique sort of flavors. We have just the Autumn Piano here, which feels like a, I guess what I would call a hero piano. It's one that's really meant to kind of take center stage. It's delicate but warm, and it just sounds a lot like Autumn. To me, Autumn Piano isn't like a solo piano, but it comes across more as an accompaniment thing. I find myself feeling like the sound of it is best when augmented with some added effects or maybe accompanied by some synths or a cello or something, but it's a really, really solid piano sound on its own. But one of the cool things about it is if we go into the libraries here, there is the Autumn Piano multi-instrument, which is a sampled piano with some affected layers of stuff. Which is a pretty cool sound. I think this one is really worth checking out because this affected version here, just gorgeous sounding. Next, we have the Winter Felt Piano prototype from PianoBook, and again for Decent Sampler. This is a lot like the claustrophobic piano, but has a different sort of flavor to it. And I think that's what's important with piano libraries and stuff, is having little nuances between them so that you have different tools to do the job right. The winter felt piano is another felt piano. It's very intimate, you get the idea, but I like this one because it reminds me sort of that autumn piano or of the claustrophobic piano, because it does just sound a bit more immediate than other felt pianos, and I really like that, especially for such a compact sample library. What I really like about this one in particular, though, is using it for very slow pieces, because it has an interesting sound to the sustains that I can't quite put my fingers on. I don't know what it is that draws me to it, but it just sounds really, really cool. It's great for just those slow, shifting, drifting pieces, like a chunk of ice lost at sea or something. Just a very powerful sound. With that, let's have some fun and make us a quick tune, shall we? I've got the claustrophobic piano up here, and I've got just sort of my go-to processing chains to make pianos sound more gooder. First, I'm running that through just my kind of general piano channel strip idea here. This is just some analog console saturation, a little bit of a low pass that's extremely gentle just to shave off some stuff, a bit of optical compression, which is very spongy, gluey, and warm, and just a hint of EQ to boost up some top, add a little bit more bite with some mids, duck out some mud, and add just a little bit of emphasis to the lows, because claustrophobic piano just needs a little bit of help with that. With Ascend, I've routed that into Ultraverb, and we have our final piano sound to work with that's just this huge, epic ambient thing. We could maybe dial that back a little bit here for the sake of writing down the idea, but we're just gonna start destroying this and making something interesting with a free piano. Right, 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, bit of a false start. I didn't know what I wanted to do there for a sec. 3, 2, 1, go. A little bit morose, but I'll take it. So I think we'll just take this and dupe it out a couple times. I'm just gonna start goofing with it here, and not really in any particular fashion. I think we're just gonna find some interesting looking waveforms and mess with pulling the audio apart in interesting ways, because that's when cool stuff starts to happen, I find. Okay, so with that same recording messed around with a bit here, what have we got? grainy, spooky. Like it. That was kind of cool. It was almost like a little delayed effect. Skipping ahead. Cool. I like the direction. Let's start messing with these a little bit. Warp modes make all the difference. Kind of like that one with the stretch. Let's pitch that one up an octave. Ooh, that's weird. Maybe not. A little too weird. Let's use that as like the base layer. All right, put it all together and mix it in a pot, and we have... Okay, I like that. I like that. Let's just absolutely wreck one of these here and make that into just a super shimmery upper layer, and we'll start goofing with some effects. So in a couple minutes here, by taking that same improv, stretching it out, messing with it, and goofing around with some effects and stuff and a little bit of mixy things, I've now turned that same idea into this. Which I think is a good start to sort of an underlay to something. I grabbed the free Labs Frozen Strings cello here, and I think throwing this on top would really start to pull this idea together. I really like the textures and kind of little bits and bobs that are starting to emerge from that. So maybe that'll be the rest of my afternoon here, is sitting down and goofing with this. That's a pretty interesting idea for about maybe 20 minutes worth of work. And I think I could definitely expand on that and start turning that into something. And I would encourage you to maybe go out and do a little bit of the same this week. That wraps everything up for this video. As mentioned, all the plugins and stuff are going to be linked down in the description below. Go out, try these for yourself, and see what you can make. Of course, if you make something cool, feel free to share it with me on social media or the Discord, because I always love to hear what you're out there doing and what you're working on. With that, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something, and as always, I hope this inspires you to get out there and make something awesome.
And that's how you can get some free piano sounds that sound amazing. I mean, that Autumn piano, I'm definitely getting my hands on that. I've tried the Spitfire one. I just got my hands. Awesome samples in that plugin VST. And I also like, he didn't just show some great plugins, he showed how he massages the piano sound to make it fuller. Uh, um, Sometimes EQ it to give it more bass. It's not just having the right tone. Sometimes it's sculpting it, and that's one thing he's great at showing. At Venus Theory over on YouTube. Now, one thing he mentioned in there about playing piano with string accompaniment, like cello behind the piano, that's something I've been doing a lot of in the last couple of years as I've gotten more comfortable with string orchestrations. Um, this next one that I'm going to play from my PianoWorX library, this is one I did back in January, and it was all about getting the cello in there and getting the strings to blend with the piano so that the melody was Something Said, Where the Road Ends. Like Uni had noticed, tried real hard to blend those strings with the pianos to get, more of a cinematic string approach, but still have that nice light piano on top of it. That's my jam. Now, when it comes to the progressions, the chords that you use, like in that particular case, that was a nice simple 1-7-1 approach, and as you get more advanced with your piano chord progressions, you can really go from a beginner pianist to a pro pianist quick. It's just about knowing the right chord progressions. And this is a new site that I found while I was searching for these, all about piano, at Pianoly on YouTube. And if you're looking to learn popular songs on the piano fast and with ease, go here. I mean, look at what she's got. I mean, great piano tutorials. Covers all the important stuff, arpeggiating, chord patterns, and that's what we're going to really look at here is 5 must-know piano chord patterns that will turn you from a beginner into a pro.
Sounding amateur when playing piano chords. This video will take you from sounding amateur to pro with just 5 simple chord patterns. These chord patterns are also inspired by your favorite musicians. So let's get started. While you're watching this video, be sure to grab the freebie. It's going to have the sheet music to every single one of these 5 chord patterns that's going to help you sound like a pro. All right, chord pattern number 1 is called the Coldplay. With our chord patterns, we're going to start with the most simple to the most complicated. This is the most simple one, but we see it all the time in popular music. I'm going to break it down for you in a simple chord progression. And that chord progression is going to be C major, G major, A minor, F major, and then back to C major. So let's break it down. All that's happening in this pattern is we are playing 8th notes in our left hand and basically quarter notes in our right hand. So our right hand is going a little bit slower than our left hand. So both of our hands are going to be together on the first beat, and then our left hand's going to come in again. So it switches together, left hand, together, left hand, together, left hand, like this. And you're going to play that chord 4 times in your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to move to the next chord, G major. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then back to C major. So here's that whole pattern. Again, we hear this all the time in popular music, so definitely learn it. All right, chord pattern number 2 is called the Journey. We hear this pattern all the time in popular music. Another great example with that pattern would be Imagine by John Lennon. But again, we hear it all the time, so it's definitely a worthwhile pattern to learn. So let's apply this pattern to our simple chord progression. All that's happening is we're breaking the chord up into different parts. So with the first chord, C major, we're going to start with E and G first, and we're going to rock from E and G playing at the same time to C. And then we're gonna add our left hand. You can play one note or you can play an octave on C. So we're gonna do that 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do it with the next chord, G major. This is a really great chord pattern to learn because it's found all over popular music, so definitely learn it. Chord pattern number 3 is one of my favorites. I'm calling it the Adele. This chord pattern is really just arpeggios. That means that the chord is just broken up into small pieces. Chord pattern number 3, the Adele, is found all over popular music because we use arpeggios all the time. And the way Adele is doing it is she's moving up and down this arpeggio. And in case you don't know what an arpeggio is, I recommend watching this video. But basically they're a chord that's broken up into one note at a time. So let's apply this arpeggio pattern to our chord progression. We're gonna start on C, and we're gonna move up the notes of the C major chord like this. C, E, G, E, C, E, G, E. So we're just moving up and down. And we're gonna do that 4 times with this pattern. 2, 3, 4. And then we'll go down to G major, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and back to C major. So it might be a little tricky playing an arpeggio at first, so be sure to relax your hands and don't tense up too much. All right, which pattern is your favorite so far? Let me know in the comments below. Moving on to pattern number 4. Pattern number 4 is called the Sarah. You might recognize that pattern from Love Song by Sarah Bareilles. I like to call this pattern kind of a left-hand toss, and we find this all the time in popular music. So let's apply this pattern to our chord progression. For the beginning, we're gonna play the left hand and the right hand together. We're not tossing yet, so we're gonna go like this. And I'm gonna keep all of my notes really short. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play C major, the chord in my right hand. The first time is together. 1, 2, 3, and then I'm gonna toss my left hand. So ready? Together, 2, 3, left, right, left. So watch that again. Together, left, right, left. Together, left, right, left. If you were counting it, you would go like this. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then we're gonna move to the next chord. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. That is a very fun chord pattern. And now let's move on to our most complicated or most challenging pattern. And this one is called the Elton. You guessed it, this one is by Elton John. What I just played was the beginning of Your Song by Elton John. Elton John has a very specific style, and a lot of what he does is he's playing arpeggios and playing a little bit off of the beat. We call this syncopation in music. So in our pattern, I simplified it a little bit, but it's definitely the most complicated one. I'm going to apply a syncopated, arpeggiated pattern that kind of reminds me of Elton John. I'm not going to start on C, I'm actually going to start on E. So my right hand in this pattern is going to go like this. All right. E, G, C together, G, E. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. So again, I'm coming off of the beat a lot here. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. Whenever I hold that C and E, that's where our syncopation is, or our notes that are falling off of the beat. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. We're gonna do that with every single chord like this. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 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 1. All right, listen to it without me counting. And while you're doing this exercise, your fingers you use do matter. So use finger 1, 2, 3. I realize that's a stretch. 1, 2, 3, and then you're gonna have 3 and 5 on C and E. 1, 2, 3, 3 and 5, and then roll back to 2, 1. And do that with every single pattern. Don't forget to download the freebie that has all of the 5 patterns that we went over in this video today. They all are written on the staff, and in case you can't read music, I did write the notes in as well to help you. So be sure to download that freebie so that you can go from sounding amateur to sounding pro. Let me know which chord pattern is your favorite in the comments below. Like if this video helped you, and be sure to subscribe if you want more videos about how to go from 0 to playing your favorite songs in months, not years. And I will see you next time.
Oh, what a good teacher. I loved how as she was going through the examples, you know, she's counting them out. She's showing you the right way to approach learning, you know, your chords for these particular songs. I'm a little surprised she didn't add Billy Joel into those 5 choices. I like how she named each one based on the different sounds. The Journey one, like Uni noticed, that particular progression, Let It Be, couple of different Journey songs. That progression is so popular. There's a video out on YouTube that shows like 200 different songs that have been done with that particular progression with bands. So that was at Piano Lee on YouTube. Awesome piano teacher. Straightforward, easy to pick up and understand. If you're starting out with the piano and you want to get good starting points, take those 5 suggestions that she did and run with them. You can write songs all night. Now, the next one we're going to be looking at is about mixing piano for rock. Before I play this one, I'm going to play another one of my songs from the When the Children Lead album. This one was our piano rock song. I actually had 2 singers, a male and a female singer, a nice little progression I was doing in C, and this is one of the first real piano rock songs that I ever wrote. It's called The Game.
Someone
And that was the game. My first piano rock song. So, speaking of piano rock and mixing it, I wish I'd had these resources and tips and tools back then. This was early 90s. We were still dealing with tape and reels, and we didn't have the kind of compressors and EQ that we do nowadays. This one comes from Hardcore Music Studio. Thank you, Uni, for hooking me up with that. He's over at Hardcore Music Studio on YouTube, and just monster resources. Tips, equipment tips, reviews, guitar techniques. I mean, the guy's covering all bases. And what he's going to show us here is mixing piano for rock and heavy music. Some of these songs that I've been showing you from this album, this is the kind of piano that I really like to do, that I really want to do more of. And let's see what he suggests for how to approach mixing.
What's up, Jordan here from hardcoremusicstudio.com. Wanted to do a quick video here on how to mix piano for rock music or kind of heavier music. Basically just dense arrangements with lots of guitars and drums and bass and everything, and how to get your piano to be consistent and present in the mix without getting buried behind all that stuff. So let me just show you the track I'm working on here. So the piano in this song is a really important piece of the arrangement, and it's almost taking the place of the rhythm guitars in terms of what it's supposed to be doing in the song. So we want to make sure it stays solid and consistent and steady, and that you can hear it throughout the whole mix. So let me show you the raw piano track that I got. So not bad, but maybe a little bit boring, and maybe some busier sections, and especially behind those guitar leads, it's going to get buried a little bit. So let's start working on it. First thing I had in the chain is the SSL channel for EQ. And one big tip, by the way, is to EQ in mono. So when I was doing the EQ for this piano, I had pressed the mono button on my monitor controller and was making sure that when everything was collapsed at just one channel coming out the same spot, that I could find the frequencies and do enough boosting and cutting and whatever I needed to do in order to get the piano to poke through the mix. So I've got a high pass filter at 100 hertz here. I'm also taking out a little bit of low end with the shelf around 120, just a couple dB or a dB and a half. I'm also cutting a little bit in the low mids around 250 with a narrower bandwidth here, and again only about a dB there. And then I'm also boosting the mid-range around 1.5K, about 4 dB boost there, and then adding a lot of brightness with the top end shelf, about 6.5K, doing 6 dB there. So let's check out an A/B of this. Obviously a lot brighter, a lot more mid-rangey, less of the low-end willingness in the piano that we don't want in the context of a whole mix like this, because we got a lot of that kind of low-end energy coming from the bass and from the rhythm guitars, electric and acoustic in here. So we really want to focus on getting the mid-range and the high end of the piano to come through. Now let's hear it in the context of the mix. Hear how in solo it almost sounded a little bit odd, like kind of too mid-rangey and bright, but in the context of the mix, it really lifts the energy and the feel of the song. So let's keep going. Next, we've got a compressor, and you can't be shy when you're dealing with piano in the mix. Hopefully that's kind of the main point I want to get across in this video. You know, I've got some pretty big EQ moves there, and then I'm going to do a lot of compression here. So let's check this out. Even though I'm doing, a lot of compression up to 10 dB or more here, it's fairly transparent still, but you can hear how it kind of adds a little bit of energy to the attack. It makes it sound like he's hitting it a little bit harder, and then also makes the overall level more consistent and just adds a little more energy in general to the mix and kind of just pins it down and keeps it in its place. Okay, after that, I found that it was just still needed a little bit more brightness, so I used this Pultec style EQ here, just adding about 2.5 dB of a high boost at 12K. This one's a little bit subtle. It's a really smooth, nice EQ, but it adds a little bit of air to the top end. And then lastly, what I usually really like to do with piano is add some saturation and almost some subtle distortion to the piano to help it cut through the mix and cut through the guitars. So in this case, I'm using the decapitator, a little bit of drive on the end mode here. Let's check this out. It's just giving us some more harmonic content, some saturation, and even like a tiny bit of distortion, and that's going to really help it cut through the mix again, like I said, and compete with the guitars. So let's go through our whole chain again. I'll bypass everything and then put it back in, and we'll see how this is sitting in the mix. Bring our guitar leads back. Main lesson I want to get across with this video is you got to be a little bit aggressive, or maybe a lot aggressive, depending on how heavy the mix is. If I'm doing something that's more metal, more hardcore, or just heavier rock than this, I'll probably add more distortion, more compression, maybe even more EQ to get the piano to come through the mix, if you want it to be kind of a main element that is heard throughout the whole song. When I was playing that whole section there with the plugins bypass, you could hear how it kind of sat back. It was kind of low energy. It was more just in the background of the mix. But once I put that EQ, compression, and saturation and distortion on, it really became a main element and a main driver of the mix. So don't be shy with your piano. As I always say, don't be afraid to push your mix a little bit. Be aggressive with your EQ and compression for something like this. And if you go too far, then just pull it back a bit and find the sweet spot. And this is also another case for doing your EQ and everything with the whole mix running. Don't just EQ and compress while you have the piano soloed, because as you can hear in solo, this sounds a little bit too mid-rangey, too bright, too aggressive on the compression and all that, but in the context of the mix, it just sits perfectly. So that's it for this video. Make sure you're on my mailing list if you're not already. It's at hardcoremusicstudio.com. You can grab a cheat sheet, get on my mailing list. That's where I send all my best content. You'll get a bunch of free stuff there, and hope you learned something. I'll see you next time.
Oh, some great advice he just gave there. In terms of there we go, at Hardcore Music Studio on YouTube, and what he was mentioning there with the mixing at the end. Don't just EQ and compress listening to the solo track. See where it sits in the entire mix, because I mean his challenge there was to, like he said, make the piano poke out of the mix so that it would actually come to the front as part of the rhythm. Because a lot of times when you're mixing piano and guitar, piano falls behind the rhythm guitars a lot of times, and sometimes you don't hear them unless you do some of these tricks that he did to poke it back up, to push it back up. And a good suggestion by recommending that you try these EQ and compression techniques from the bottom up and bring them up. And if you feel like you're going too far, you're hearing too much, then start pulling back. It's easier to calibrate that kind of stuff if you start with no effect, bring the effect in, find that moment where the effect goes overboard, and dial it back to the sweet spot. Some great mixing and engineering advice on the channel. And actually, this next song I'm going to be playing from the When the Children Lead album, we had this challenge because this one's a little heavier, symphonic hard rock kind of situation, and it starts with a piano lead, and the big problem we were having was keeping that piano lead up in the front as like the heavy guitars kick in. So this is a song called Start Thinking Again. It's got the distinction of being the first song I ever programmed drums on.
Told by
and that was Start Thinking Again. But probably my favorite of all the tracks on that album. It's the one I felt the most accomplished after the closest in the recording that we were looking for and quality and sound. We just had gotten a Fostex 8-track reel to reel, and this was one of the first ones that we got to use with it. And I programmed the drums, uh, orchestrated all the strings and the pianos, had my guitarist Matt come in and just lay down some incredible solos and riffs on top of it. And Jeff had an easy job at that point, just adding the vocals. But it was the symphonic rock sound that we were really trying to go for as a band. So moving on to piano approaches, composition approaches. This one comes from, if you've watched our channel in the past, Nari Soul, you're going to be familiar with her because we've spotlighted her a couple of times. She's one of those music historians, aficionados, researchers. She really is digging into what music is emotionally, rhythmatically. She does shows for several different channels. This particular video is coming from Wired, at Wired on YouTube, but you should definitely also check out at Nari Soul on YouTube. If you want to learn what music is, her channel's all about that. She is phenomenal. Definitely the best resource that Glenn has sent me so far. And what she's going to be talking about here is 16 levels of piano composition. And composition is as important as anything when it comes to writing a song. You know, composing and arranging is what makes a song. And she's going to cover, 16 levels of piano approach there. And we're going to go from easy to complex and see how it progresses.
My name is Nari Soul. I'm a pianist composer, and I've been challenged to go through levels of music complexity at the piano. What's amazing about music composition is that it explores so much, and the possibilities are really endless in terms of what you can do with 12 different pitches. What's incredible is that composition can go to so many different places, and the possibilities are really endless. A quick disclaimer, this is based on my interpretation of the word complexity in this context. It can mean different things for different people. And the song I'll be using, Happy Birthday. It's common, it's familiar, and if it's your birthday, you're in luck. At some point in history, someone decided to arrange these notes in this particular order. So let's first play it with just one finger in the simplest way possible. And this is our melody. With that, I'm going to add just another finger. I'm alternating notes, and I'm creating the simplest form of a bass line. By adding a third finger, I'm supporting the bass line. Now we have a stronger sense of harmony. These two fingers are called a drone when played together, and you can hear it in rock shuffle. By adding a third finger in the left hand, that's a chord. We can move these chords around, take it somewhere else, but we eventually come back home. So now I can take this chord, I can break the notes up, and now I have an arpeggio. Another way to break up the chords might be or where I'm taking the notes of the chord and I'm opening it up like a fan. This movement is now giving us a deeper sense of rhythm. So what happens when we take our arpeggio? Break it up by skipping the second note. These groups of 3 makes the piece more like a waltz. You may be familiar with the waltz, or a waltz is in groups of 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We're beginning to find form. I could choose different genres which are in different groups. Or rumba, or stride. But we're going to continue with waltz for now. So let's go back to the right-hand melody. The goal is to add more complexity and presence to the melody by expanding it. I could make it more complex simply by using more than one finger at a time. But for this level, I'm going to keep it to one finger at a time. And add embellishments. By simply adding notes around the melody, I am decorating it, almost like adding lacing to something. And this makes it sound prettier. There's more motion to it. There's more color to the melody. There are more elaborate ways to do it. And in certain cases, you can hear the melody less or more. Now, a warning on decoration. Complexity isn't just about a bunch of added notes and craziness. One way to interpret the purpose of this video might be something like this. But for me, physicality doesn't equal complexity. We can make things much more complex in other ways. So up until now, we've been dealing with the melody and the harmony. So 2 parts, singer and a band. What happens if we have 2 singers, 2 voices? Now, if we swap these parts, the main melody is on the bottom. It's much more complex. Add to that a third melody on the bottom so that the main melody is sandwiched in between the other 2 parts. It's like having 3 singers singing together. So now we're dealing with polyphony, multiple voices, and the complexity is in the interaction between all of them. And what's harder is to hear the happy birthday melody. But put away voices for a second. How else can we make the melody less recognizable? We can change the rhythm. So far it's been in groups of 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. What about groups of 4? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we're going to make it more complex by making it 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. So far we've been dealing with adding stuff to the melody and rearranging it in different ways. But now, in changing the DNA of Happy Birthday, it's becoming more of a composition. So before we move on to level 13, let's see what it sounds like with all of the levels combined. So there are different tools that we can use to change the color, the mood, and the personality of what we're dealing with. Say, for example, we add extensions. You can enrich in the harmony. Say that we change the harmonic progression. Or the scale. Or the arrangement of the scale. These are all tools that we can use to create new material. We can also combine certain techniques as well. That's Happy Birthday in E major. Let's take those chords and apply the melody in C major. So those levels were about manipulating harmony, but what does it mean to manipulate the melody? There are more tools that composers can use to transform the melody in unrecognizable ways. These are more abstract. Let's say we play the melody backwards. Or flipped upside down. Upside down and backwards. Or fragment it, displace it in different registers. These are all techniques that composers use to abstract the melody and find new material out of it, kind of like what Picasso does with his paintings, where he abstracts parts of the human body and displaces them around the canvas. So we have one last final level. The complexity of this last level is really hard to articulate because it has to do with creative alchemy and combining all the different parts so that they come together in a way that reflects me as an artist and what I want to express in music. You can just prepare a dish, but it's different from really cooking it with heart and with soul. So when you put all of the different levels together, this is what I would do. Complexity isn't something that can be straightforwardly measured in music, yet it's been an interesting exercise to notice the different nuances that are involved in creating something that's complex. It was super challenging because I didn't really know what complexity means in the context of music because it can be applied to different things. In this case, I chose to apply it to certain aspects of music composition, and it was about the architecture of things. Tomorrow, I may look at this challenge, if I were to revisit it, and focus on an entirely different aspect of music, whether it's sonority or texture, something completely different. There are a lot of creative choices along the way that affect how the final product will turn out to be. Whatever you do with music, it always has to have some sort of purpose other than just being an intellectual exercise, because otherwise, what's the point? So that's it. Thanks, Wired.
Wow, she really does some fantastic videos. They're so lucky to have her on their team. That number 15, the melody manipulation. Holy crap, Uni! I think both of us firework for ideas. I'm definitely going to be playing around with that, and I hope to get to the complexity level one day. So that was at Wired on YouTube, and that was at Nari Soul, who was teaching you how to go from beginner pianist to the most insane kind of piano that you can play at each level. I think I'm back. Sorry, guys. Satellite bounce there. Let me see if I can get things back up. This is the downside to getting your internet from the sky. There we go. And I've got another piece from my PianoWorX library. That I did last year, back in March. Let's play that while we get everything back up. and that was On What You Fall. You can find that in my Pieces of Tonis band, where all my PianoWorX go in. And that one, I was trying to do like, the old Russian composer stomping chords kind of approach, and then shift into totally different key. It's one of my more interesting transitions. Now, I've got another piece from the When the Children Lead album, and this is another one of the rock piano ones that is kind of the sequel to the song I played earlier, The Game. This was one that I wrote afterwards, which kind of defines the game that we're playing and what it's like. It's called Ring Around. And that was Ring Around from the When the Children Lead album that I did. And that was more closer to the end of the album on the second side. And if you listen to my piano throughout the album, towards the end, it starts to get a little more country, rock and roll, but a little more country. And the next video that we're going to be looking at is actually about the history of piano rock. Come on. There we go. And I'd started off with this YouTube channel with our first video, at PianoNote Official. And I had to add this one because when it comes to rock, for me, it starts with the piano. That early 50s, 60s rock piano, to me, was my early motivation. And this one, he's going to go through the history of piano rock, starting with the Jerry Lee Lewis days and moving on up.
Take a look at where rock piano began. Rock piano is an attitude in approaching the instrument, and I began to wonder, where exactly did that attitude first kick in? And as I was studying piano, I thought, I think it all started with, I think Beethoven was the first guy to actually rock the piano. The next style that really strikes me as being very rock of its essence anyway, is when the piano it came to the Western world and became very Americanized. And in the hands of someone like Scott Joplin, it began to take on this whole new approach. It was somewhat classical, really full-on ragtime. So for this piece, in the tradition of the ragtime piano players who always had their back to the audience, we've got to spin the piano around. But then, when music went electric and the rock era began, that's when it really started to make sense to me. Good golly, Miss Molly, you sure like to ball. Good golly, Miss Molly, you sure like to ball. And the piano player that I really was drawn to was a guy who played standing up most of the time. His name was Little Richard. From the early, early morning till the early, early night, I saw Miss Molly rocking in the house of blue light. Good golly, Miss Molly, you sure like to ball. When you're rocking and rolling, can't hear your mama call. No, 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 no. Come on, Molly. That's a horse's name. Then when the 1960s hit, I realized when I heard the Beatles playing Lady Madonna, it was time to put my guitar down and see if I could get into that. Tuesday afternoon is never ending. Wednesday morning papers didn't come. Thursday night your stockings needed mending. See how they run. Lady Madonna, children at your feet, wonders how you managed to make ends meet. Yeah. Further into the Beatles' career with piano, George Martin would sometimes take the piano role, and there the classical music and rock began to really kind of marry each other. Etc. And that moved us into the 1970s when all of those styles began to converge. After the Beatles, where do you go? Well, one guy knew exactly where to go, and of course that's Elton John, where he brought all aspects of the piano into a more progressive, yet still classical, yet entirely rooted in rock way of playing. So here's one of his greatest songs, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. When the dogs of society howl, you can't let me in your penthouse. I'm going back to my blow, back to the howling road out in the woods, hunting the horny-backed toad. So it's classical, it's Little Richard, it's Beatles, but it's all pure Elton. One lovely feature about the piano and writing rock songs on piano is there's a movement where the bass line descends, as it does at the beginning of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, as it does at the beginning of I read the news today, oh boy, as it does at the beginning of so if you think your life is complete confusion. Anyway, it's a lovely movement, and I'm going to show you a song that I think uses it perhaps better than any other, and that's a song from Freddie Mercury, Queen, and that's Somebody to Love. Take a look in the mirror and I cry, Lord, what you do to me? Oh, I spent all my years in believing you, but I just can't get no release. Lord, somebody, please somebody, could anybody find me somebody to love? Okay, so those were all the piano elements that I gravitated towards, and there was one final piece before I started my solo work, and that was to listen to the transition between the 70s and the 80s. Listen to Tony Banks of Genesis and how he wrote on the piano in the 70s and how he morphed that into something brand new in the 1980s. And then we move into what he did in the 1980s. And this is where I pulled all those kind of elements together as a learning and finally came out with my own record. So this is one of the final ones, Genesis, Turn It On Again. You're just another face that I know from a TV show. I've known you for so very long. You feel like a friend. Could you do anything for me? Can I touch you for a while? Can I meet you on another day when we can find a way? I can show you some of the people in my life. I can show you again. So there, we've come all the way from Beethoven over a couple hundred years ago, through ragtime, through early rock, through 60s, 70s, 80s, and then finally I get to make my own records and pull those elements together in my own fashion. So here's a little classical opening of Strange Animal. You're a strange animal, that's what I know. But you're a strange animal, I've got to follow. Oh, I'm in the spiritus. Oh, you're a strange animal, that's what I know. But you're a strange I've got to follow. Oh, you're a strange animal, that's what I know. But you're a strange animal, I've got to follow. Oh, I'm in the spiritus. You're a strange animal, that's what I know. Wow, so there you go. There's a whirlwind tour of the piano over the past couple of centuries and how it wound up converging together into rock. So keep rocking that piano.
Ooh, the rocking the piano.
Hey,
You
there's
do
an
the
Ange.
boogie woogie and rocking the piano, Tones.
Oh, he went through the boogie woogie stuff.
He did.
And he even
Get
went
him,
further.
Molly.
He even went further back. Like he started with Beethoven, which I love that he did because I always considered Beethoven like a rock pianist,
Okay.
just caught in a time where classical was the norm.
He was way before his time.
But hey, roll over Beethoven.
Right? Get him, Molly.
Yeah, that was a good retrospective on the history of rock piano at Pianote Official. Great channel. They also have this Singio vocal channel, and damn, tell me that dude could not sing as good as he could play.
Absolutely. And you know what I love? Like, I'm looking there at that first video, piano teachers react to Barbie song, What Was I Made For? It's great that they're using piano teachers to kind of look over vocals and kind of break it down a little bit, because the piano is a great instrument. Actually, it's the perfect instrument to actually tone and train.
It's useful when, if you've got a singer that you're trying to train and condition, the piano is usually the one that most choir teachers will go to.
Absolutely. It gives you a wide range, Tone.
Yeah.
No.
Hanging out with you gives me a wide range.
Well, I had to come talk some ID. I don't know if you
quietly
took notice to the name I entered here. But I'm the Anster.
Oh, there's Anster.
Anster tonight, yes.
I like it. I like it.
So what else we gonna do tonight, Tone?
We've got one more that talks about country, which for piano is the one my family tells me. Apparently, I'm a country songwriter. I don't agree, but it's true. Sometimes it comes out sounding like country. And actually, before we play this one, I'll show you one of the songs from my When the Children Lead album. And this one was the last track on the album, and it had that country sound. That's when my mom started saying, you should make country songs.
That's awesome.
So this one I actually wrote right before my sister went off to college, and it was all about, not losing yourself, never changing what's good about you.
Right. Be you, be her, be original.
And that's it. See, I haven't changed. So this is never change.
Yes.
Everything is changing. I've
I like that one, Tony. You started with you can't see things to get better, and at the end, things can get better.
Yeah, well, that was the moral of the story.
That's right.
See, I've told some stories, Ange.
See, make sure you go to Tony's PianoWorX. Like, share, subscribe. I like being a small widget. We could do this one too, Tone.
Is the screen coming up?
Yeah, I see the screen.
Oh, it doesn't show it for me at the moment. When I blipped it, must have.
Now it doesn't. Now it does. How's that? Did I fix it, Tone?
Yeah, I still don't see it here, but as long as you see it, then that is what we need.
I can't hit play.
Well, this is the channel.
Did it pop up for you now?
Yeah. And the last video that we have for tonight is recreating the genre I hate most, which I found that so funny because I didn't feel that was a country song. Never Change, but that's what they told me it was. So I was like, okay.
Well, do you do another country song then, Tone?
I probably got a couple more under my belt.
Also, make sure to check out Tony's karaoke therapy. You could use those to train to tone, to sing your favorite songs.
Yeah, practice, and that's how you learn how to do the songwriting. Practice songs that are good. Look at how they're arranged, look at how they're composed, the instrumentation that they use. Take from that and inspire it into your own original music. That's how you be you. So this one comes from @Signals Music Studio. Jake, he's been a longtime favorite. Another one that Glenn brought at me, and every time we're talking about something, he's got a video.
So which one?
This one, recreating the genre I hate most, bro country. Ooh.
Bro country.
The toughest kind of country.
Songwriting structure arrangements.
Yeah, and those are all important. Structure and arrangement is the part of songwriting that we tend to ignore, we don't think enough about.
Absolutely. And we need to think more about it. Are you going to let him talk?
Feeling that a lot of you can relate to this following experience. You turn on the radio and you hear a song that is so bad you think, how could anyone listen to this? And then you start to realize, wait, I could have written this. Then your confusion slowly morphs into anger as it dawns on you that somebody's making a ton of money off a song that you think you could have whipped up in a day is a bad joke. Upon reaching this state of mind, there's two choices you can take. Choice one is to let the anger flow through you, slowly consuming you like a poison until you finally lash out in a fit of rage. Option number two is far more productive, and that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. And that is to actually put your hypothesis to the test and try to actually work to create this genre you hate so much. You see, being cynical and critical and throwing tomatoes from the sideline is literally the easiest thing in the world to do. It takes zero effort or creativity to just criticize the creations of others. And the Dunning-Kruger effect is a real thing. It's very easy to overestimate your own competency in a field that you've never actually touched before. So instead of taking the dark path, I advise you convert all that hatred, anger, and bitterness into an act of productivity and actually creating your own song. For me personally, it's really easy to like lots of different kinds of music. The more I learn about music, the easier it is to find aspects of songs that I enjoy, even if I don't like that song itself. However, I have an abnormal and unjustified hatred towards the modern pop country genre. It's not all country that I have a problem with. I love me some Dolly Parton, Willie Nelson. I think the sound of a pedal steel guitar is incredible. But But this modern bro country genre is something that I was subjected to for about 4 hours a day at my last job, and that was only a little over 2 years ago, so the trauma is still fresh in my mind. But I vividly remember hearing those songs on a daily basis and saying to myself, I could write that. So in this video, I'm actually going to put that to the test. I've written a modern pop country song, and I want to show you literally every step of the way how I was able to make it, from the chords and melodies that I used to the general structure and the arrangement. So let's get started. I began by thinking of a chorus section first, and I knew I needed like a catchphrase, something memorable, singable, and something slightly ridiculous. I was thinking back to other similar hit songs like Getting Drunk on a Plane or Let's Turn This Cornfield into a Party. And I knew right away that I had a limited topics of which I was allowed to sing about. So it would have to be about one of the following: beer, pickup trucks, girls, blue jeans, church, dusty roads, small towns and or hometowns, fishing, clocking out of work, etc., etc. So I came up with this idea of my pickup truck is my best friend. Before I even got on an instrument, I just kind of played around singing that while I was in the car and walking around, and I ended up coming up with this melody and this set of words. It sounds like this. My pickup truck is my best friend, gonna stick with me till the bitter end. I said it before and now I'll say it again. A truck is a man's best friend. Now, if you notice, all of the notes that I sang there came from the E pentatonic minor scale. I also want to pay close attention to the fact that a lot of the times when I sing the note G, which is my minor third, I have a tendency to bend it a little sharp to resolve back to E. And that's a key element to twanging. If you take a minor third and you slightly bend it up into a neutral third territory, where it starts rubbing up against that major third, you get a really nice country sound, or like a blues sound, that is really indicative of that genre. Now, all of these notes came from E pentatonic minor, so we might want to assume that an E minor chord should go underneath that. But E minor is a very sad chord for a upbeat pop country song. Instead, I chose to put an E major underneath that, and that might seem like sacrilege. Why am I using a major chord with a pentatonic minor scale on top? Well, this is like the foundation of blues and rock. A lot of rock and blues is just, you've got a major tonic, but you're playing the notes of a pentatonic minor scale on top, and it creates a lot of tension and a lot of that bluesy twangy feel. So now if you hear that chorus again on top of an E major, it sounds like this. My pickup truck is my best friend, gonna stick with me till the bitter end. And you can hear there's some dissonance there, but it's the dissonance that we want for a genre like this. However, it's pretty boring to write a chorus in just one chord, so I needed to add some extra chords to the mix. And instead of thinking scales and keys and stuff like that, I really just wanted to kind of go with a classic rock, no theory kind of feel. All you got to do is take all the notes of your pentatonic minor scale, E, G, A, B, and D, and just give each one of them their own major chord. So I get an E major, I get a G, an A, a B, and a D. And I can kind of put those chords together in any order and get a really cool chord progression. I also let myself use that C major chord because I knew it would follow up really well with a D and an E to give me a Mario cadence, something I talked about just a few videos ago. So with just those chords, I was able to come up with this chord progression. And if I sing my melody on top of these chords, here's what it sounds like. My pickup truck is my best friend, gonna stick with me till the bitter end. I said it before, now I'll say it again. A truck is a man's best friend. To make this really feel like a chorus section, all we have to do is add in the other elements of a band. So I added in some bass, programmed drums, and an extra guitar line on top. My pickup truck is my best friend, gonna stick with me till the bitter end. Now, if you add up all the notes in these chords, it's quite a mess. I don't want to parse this as E major or E minor and borrowing from in between them. I just want to think we're in like E blues. I know that's not a key. The key of E blues doesn't exist. But I think it would be really silly to say that we're in E major here, and I think it would be silly to say we're in E minor. We're in this weird hybrid rock version of both of them. Now, when I write vocal harmonies, I'm often thinking about how the harmonies interact with the chords underneath. In this case, I just did straight parallel thirds, meaning any note that I'm singing in my main melody, I just go up a third and I stayed in the minor scale to find my harmony note. My pickup truck is my best friend, gonna stick with me till the bitter end. Later on, we'll talk about the second chorus where I not only added in a parallel third, but a third above that to create a sixth harmony. So now that I've got my chorus section finished, it was time to write a verse. And our verse should really contrast with our chorus. If our chorus is this big thing with lots of fast chords and lots of different chords, then I thought it would be nice to have our verse section be more subdued, a little bit more rhythmically tight, and far less harmonic complexity. And nothing twangs like a banjo, but I don't really know how to play the banjo. However, it has frets and strings, so it only took me a few minutes to come up with this pentatonic riff. Next, I did want to add some percussion, and the modern pop country genre has been borrowing a lot from hip hop over these last few years, not only just for their vocal lines, but for their percussion lines as well. So I grabbed this hip hop drum kit and programmed in a really simple beat. I think that sounds really great, but I also wanted to add in a little bit more of that country instrumentation, so I took an acoustic guitar and just palm muted an E power chord, and occasionally taken off my first finger to get a little bit of an inverted D power chord as well. So with just those three elements, here was the verse beat. Now, in a lot of country songs, the lyrics tell a story from the very beginning to the very end. So for this first verse, I decided to start telling a little tale about how my friends ditched me and I had to get drunk all alone.
Getting off work, 11 p.m., trying to find out where the boys have been.
And this verse was followed up with the chorus that I already showed you. But now I needed a second verse. And for a second verse, you do want it to contrast with the first verse. You don't want to always have a carbon copy of the exact same section. To make this verse section sound more interesting than my previous verse section, instead of doing palm mutes, I just added in some acoustic strums instead. I also added a tambourine line and some background twang guitars just as another layer. So I've got my first verse, my first chorus, my second verse, and now we have to get to a second chorus. And this is a really important part of any song because usually after this is where the song starts changing directions and maybe even starts wrapping up. So to make this second chorus a little different than the first one, I wanted to do a double chorus. However, I had a real problem doing that. So I'm going to play the end of that first chorus, and then I'm going to try to repeat it right away, but you'll notice it doesn't quite work, and it really just falls flat. So we've got, I said it before, and now I'll say it again, a truck is a man's best friend. Pickup truck is my best friend, right? Like that doesn't work. We had kind of intentionally closed off our melody, and then all of a sudden we resurrected the chorus up out from the dead, and that doesn't flow at all to me. How can we fix this? Well, the real problem here is that I've got that A chord that just kind of cuts out dry. So instead of just stopping on that A chord, what if I just keep playing that A chord, and then finally for the first time bring in a B major? That's the dominant chord in the key of E, and it's going to really help us come back to E major to repeat the whole thing. So now that last string of chords would be a measure of A, and then a measure of B to come back. Pickup truck is my best friend. Also, my melody implied that the chorus was ending. When I dropped down an octave, truck is a man's best friend. I mean, that really sounds like things are supposed to end. So if I keep the melody up in a higher register, it should keep the energy riding out all the way through. I said it before and now I'll say it again. A truck is a man's best friend. My pickup truck is my best friend. You could hear that really helps us glue those two choruses together without that strange, awkward drop right in the middle. Now, when your second chorus is done, that's usually the sign to change directions and to go into something new, really give the listener something fresh. And what I opted for was just a guitar solo in E pentatonic minor. And I didn't even change the chords that we were just hearing from under the chorus. It's the same chord progression, all those chords we saw before. The only difference here this time is I hang out on A for 2 measures, and then I hang out on B for 2 measures. And that should give you some nice tension to solo over. Really, all I did was grab one of the most classic and overused pentatonic licks possible, which is just an ascending triplet pattern, and I think it worked out great. Now, this really is the spot where a bridge section or a middle 8 should occur, but I chose not to write a bridge section at all. It might have just been laziness, but I didn't really have an idea at the time for a bridge section, and I thought we could have easily transitioned to another idea instead. And that idea is to just take our chorus melody, drop the whole melody down an octave, and play it over the same groove that we had for our verse. And it gave us this.
A pickup truck, it's my best friend. Gonna stick with me till the bitter end. I really don't think I need to say it again.
Now, this is the most sparsely arranged part of the entire song. All we have is a hi-hat, an acoustic guitar, and the vocals. But it works as a really good way to keep things down here because for the next section, our final choruses, we want them to be, big and bombastic. So to wrap things up, we had to get to our final choruses. And all I did to make these more interesting is just lift them all up 1/2 step. So instead of being E major as our tonal center, now F major is our tonal center, and pretty much everything else is the same, just up a 1/2 step higher. Now, I wanted this to feel like a double chorus, but I didn't actually just want to sing the chorus twice. So I sang the chorus once, and then the second time the chorus comes around, it's more of like a vocal sustain with some little harmonies, doing some interesting things, grabbing from the major scale and the minor scale.
A truck is a man's best friend. A truck is is a man's best friend.
And finally, this helps me wrap things up and end on an F major chord.
A truck is a man's best friend.
So this song clocks in at just over 2 minutes, which is pretty short for a pop song. Self-admittedly, I would want to make this a little bit longer if it was actually to go out to a radio station. But without any further hesitation, I'd like to play you my first pop country single, Truck BFF.
Getting off work, 11 p.m. Trying to find out where the boys have been. I try to reach Jack, but it don't text back. Called up Dale, got his voicemail. Now what the hell, I've been waiting all week to do a little partying and wet my beak. But there's no one around, they let me down. It's why I started singing. My pickup truck is my best friend, gonna stick with me till the bitter end. I said it before and now I'll say it again. A truck is a man's best friend. I get in the truck, I head back home. Tonight looks like I'm drinking all alone. So I stop at the store, get some whiskey and coke, a couple dog treats for my greyhound smoke. Now what the hell, walking through my front door, see my furniture's torn up all over the floor. That wasn't the worst, cause on top of my bed my dog left a little present. That's why my pickup truck is my best friend, gonna stick with me till the bitter end. The best damn partner there ever has been, way better than Rin Tin Tin. I said my pickup truck is my best friend, never peed on the rug or took a dump on the bed. I said it before and now I'll say it again. A truck is a man's best friend. Pickup truck, it's my best friend, gonna stick with me till the bitter end. I really don't think I need to say it again, but I will. My pickup truck is my best friend, gonna stick right with me till the bitter end. I said it a bunch and now I'll say it again. A truck is a man's best friend. A truck is a man's best friend. Truck is a man's best friend.
Now, to me, that checks almost every box that needs to be checked in the genre, but there are a few things that I feel are definitely lacking in that production. First off, I am not a vocalist, and even though I don't think I did a terrible job, I know for a fact that if you brought a properly trained and experienced vocalist in here, they'd bring a whole different level of energy to that performance. And like I said, I think this is actually kind of short. That's not a disqualifier. If you go back to the 60s and 70s, there was a lot of really good pop music that, you know, only clocked in at about 2 minutes. And right now, Old Town Road, which I actually like as a song, that's another very, very short song that still gets away with being short. But I do feel like it's kind of lazy to not include a bridge section in here, and if this was a song I heard on the radio, I would be making fun of it at the fact that it's so short and that it only talks about my pickup truck. I also think I may have gone a little too far with the ridiculousness in some of these lyrics. I mean, I don't know of actually any country songs that talk about taking a dump on the bed, except for this one, but I've heard some really ridiculous things in pop country, so I honestly had no shame in putting it in there. But by far, the hardest thing about this song was the production and arrangement. My production skills can only go so far. I have gear limitations, I have idea limitations, and I have experience limitations. So I think if you had taken the same song and given it into the hands of a really experienced producer, you might get a song that is even more enjoyable just because it's better arranged. And I'm not gonna lie, I actually enjoyed doing this. I thought it was really fun writing 3-part harmonies.
My pickup truck is my best friend, gonna stick with me till the bitter end.
And I do enjoy tweaking things until they feel just right. This isn't something I just puked out in a few minutes. I actually spent, brain cells on making this sound what I thought it should sound like. And even though I'm not a fan of this genre, I was certainly a fan of doing this project. So I learned a lot from doing this project, and I hope you learned a lot from watching me perform this project. If you enjoyed this video, you're gonna have to thank my awesome Patreon supporters for making it possible. If you'd like to join them, there's links below in the description, but if you can't do that, a like, comment, subscribe, all helps me out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
And that's at Signals Music Studio, Jake over there, and check him out. Check out his Patreon.
Yeah, truckers.
Yeah, well, for a guy.
But I love it because I'm seeing more and more that people are writing it TRUK.
Yeah, the truck.
That's all right.
Well, for somebody who's not tuned into country, he went after like the perfect topic for a country song. You're either going to sing about your truck, your dog, or your lady that left you.
He had a good list of brainstorming that he had done about what the topics were, too. He pretty much narrowed them down. I'm still trying to figure out why they just don't spell it Trux. Still spells
trucks.
Oh, no. Anyways, make sure to check him out. Signals Music Studios.
Yes, awesome channel. Been one we've looked at many times through our topics. Hey,
Gotten small, Tony.
Not anymore.
I've grown. I'm bigger.
Shit, I can make you big. Watch.
You went big. Big. Thank you for talking ID.
With Ange and me. Well, we've got one more piano song. One that we did together. One of the funnest and trickiest projects that we've done in the last 4 years.
4 years?
Yeah, almost. We're getting there.
Oh, no. We still have till March. So, yes, we just had a half birthday. Thank you. We are not 4 as of yet. That's all right. I thought you were actually going to kill me on this piano piece, especially because, it sat for a little while. Well, to your knowledge, it sat for a while. Even though behind the scenes I was working on it and writing, it took me a little while. It just happened overnight.
Once I started hearing the melodies that you were coming up with I knew you had been feeling it out. Your melody approach was the glue, the thing that I could not hear with just the piano.
Well, on top of that, and then I come to you after 3 months and I'm like, Tone, we have to slide this all the way down.
Good thing I'm
I'm
good
not
at
trying
sliding.
to destroy your bass, but we just have a little rearranging to do.
Well, shoving
That's it. Just let it down.
shoving a minute intro with multiple voices. I mean that was a big challenge.
It was what was there 15 on that piece?
And getting everybody to actually record their parts. Oh my God.
Never tell musicians not to touch the music. That was the biggest lesson I learned out of all that.
Oh, and there were a couple of surprise tracks that popped in here and there.
There were.
Jason at one point was like, I'm going to make this a death metal song.
Right? No, I think it was punk. I don't think it was death metal. I think he was going more punk at that point. Especially with that melody. So, but yes, he was definitely feeling that out as well. Go, Jason. Fearless.
And let him roar.
Let him roar. All right, so shall I share it?
Yeah, let's take a listen to it and we'll close out with the outro. And thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Glenn should be back next week. He's got his summer gig season, so.
Well, maybe if I let him. I might not let him come back next week. I might have to go ahead and pop in on the Glenn stair too.
Power.
Let's do this. I'm Angified. I started Angified Presents.
We share the love of music.
It has been medicine and therapy. Nothing else worked.
It has saved many of us with mental health. We need to open our eyes.
Hurt people hurt people.
We ask that you listen, comprehend, and relate with your ears.
Form that heart of unity and one.
We share on this stage.
Statistics, feelings.
And ourselves.
We stand with the belief to be you, to be heard, and to be original.
We all may be different, with opinions and beliefs.
At the end of the day, we are all brothers and sisters.
We are family.
We ask that you join us in a magical journey with artists from around the world. Open your minds, let in the love,
and listen with your hearts.
We all want a better tomorrow. Be one.
Communicate and look out for one another. And then, and only then, will you find the world.
We will find peace in all the world.
You'll find the world. And you will find in this giant world. He was among us and every boy and girl. Many have been broken, red hearts turn black. Love will melt the ice and turn it back, and you will find the world. You will find the world. You will find the world. And when you find a place called home, where everyone is free to roam, a whole new world, a better place for our children's futures at stake. And you'll find with music in your soul, laughter in your hearts. Together we can grow a better place with love in us all. And you will find together we can save it all. And you will find, and you will find a place called home, where
I couldn't help myself. You asked for it.
I heard you roar.
Uh-huh, you did.
Oh, and the little accents you put there on the backing tracks on the end, that's why, like, every time I listen to it, I'm like waiting for that.
Yes, I played a lot with those backing tracks.
It came out beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you, Tony.
And thank all of you for joining us for another episode of Talking Shh. Oh, you don't want to have a battle with me?
No, let's have a off. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Good night, everyone.
Cheetos.
Ambient noise, yeah.
So now you're grabbing some band lab clips.
Now for me, that would also be something where I would use like volume automation and like bring that from the bottom, like bring it in and then bring it back out. Kind of.
And these are the kinds of sounds you can stretch. With this AI, like stretching it actually can be cool.
Oh, that was perfect for the interlude too.
Ends it right in the right
I
spot.
didn't even notice 40. I didn't even realize the texture faded out at the interlude until it happened. I'm like, wait a minute.
Sometimes you just, it was just meant to be that way.